but Bill of Rights. But God never promised us to be happy, did He? Now we can be joyful, and He promises that. By the way, you look at the book of Philippians, it's promised you can be joyful if you've got the right attitude and trust in God and realize the source of your joy is from God. But you see, happiness is based on circumstances. Circumstances aren't always what you want them to be. And so, Nehemiah's not getting into this job as a leader because he's going to be happy. Because it's going to meet his insecure needs, or because somehow it's going to make him feel better about himself. That's not what he's doing. When leaders do things and make decisions because they think it's going to make them feel better about themselves, they're on the wrong track. They're on the wrong track. If they can't correct that and get their act together, they shouldn't be a leader. Fathers and mothers shouldn't make decisions because they think it's going to benefit them, make them feel better about themselves. They're on the wrong track. And they're going to hurt their kids if not destroy them, spiritually, emotionally, psychologically. And so leaders have to worry about that, have to be concerned about that. So there are critics, of course, that come along. And there are times when criticism should be ignored, and sometimes it should be listened to. But here's how you decide the difference. If you know as a leader what God expects of you, if you know as a leader what God wants you to do, if you know as a leader that you've prayed to God already and He set you on a course, you don't let criticism that tries to detour you from that course to have any effect. Are you with me on that? You don't allow criticism that tries to detour you on that course to have any effect. You ignore it and move on. If it's good criticism to help you on the course you know God's already put you on, then that's great. Listen to it. Maybe absorb it. Maybe incorporate it in your plans. But you don't change what you know God wants you to do. Good leaders, good relational leaders, do not allow anybody, I don't care how critical they may get them off the track of what they're supposed to do, because their job is not to keep the institution happy. Their job is to meet the needs of people. Spiritual needs. Maybe sometimes physical, but spiritual needs above all. You care less about the institution, doesn't matter. Because you see, Nehemiah is not concerned about the building and the walls per se, whether they're in granite or in just simple rock, you see. How many of you watched HGTV? I've done it reluctantly from time to time, but it's always funny when they're out house hunting, you know. Well, does it have granite, you know, tops, you know, and does it have, what is the kind of, just lost it from the stoves and, oh my goodness, just went blank. Stainless steel. I guess I've tried to blank some of those things out. Anyway, so countertops have to be set. I don't even want to look at this house. If I live in this house that doesn't have granite countertops and whatever, then we're going to spend money to change that first thing, you see. Gotta have it, gotta have it. And then they go into the closets, you know. They're looking for a closet that's bigger than this building, see. I'm serious. I've seen some closets that big as this building, you know. They can't get everything into it, and they still have problems with it. Whoa, where are we at? What's going on? What are the decisions that are being made as far as the church building is concerned? Are they for your comforts? Well, certainly we don't want people to go to sleep on us or have to sit on hard surfaces or whatever, or, you know, make sure it's hot enough. Oh, is it warm enough for you today? You're not going to tell me, are you? See? Because, you know, I've been over in some foreign countries where people had to walk for miles to get to church. And if you didn't preach for an hour, you're done, you're toast, you know. We can't sit much more than 30 minutes. I think it's cut down to about 25 now. I preached a sermon in a large church one time, and it was on evangelism, and they were putting it on TV. We had a studio people there, and the cameras going and everything else, and I was really enjoying it. And the guy in charge of the TV station, he said, now make it 45 minutes, we've got to fit it into a time slot. I said, fine, let's do that. So I made it 45 minutes, didn't have any problem with that at all. You know, I was really waxing eloquent, I think I was, but anyway. And they seemed to really enjoy it. And after the sermon was over, you know, when they had the response and all that, then I started to walk down the aisle, and here's this elder sitting right there. I'm standing right there when I walk down the aisle. Doesn't you know that we don't preach more than 25 minutes in this church building? Institutionalism, see? Institutionalism. We get worried about home because we can't beat the Baptists to the local restaurant or what have you. Okay? Institutionalism. We're worried about the roast back in the oven. I have compassion for wives and mothers who worry about their roast. I know what my wife does, and I do have compassion because I like good roast and lunch. On Sundays, don't like it burnt. can't be a priority. You see? And so Nehemiah saw that. He realized that those things are just not a priority. Nehemiah persisted regardless of the criticism. What most people need is not more help, but more hope. Would that be true today? More hope. Because we live in a world today, we're wondering, what's happening? What's happening to our nation, our government? They seem to be turning against Christianity. The pattern's being set. Do you think it's going to get any better? I don't know. I don't know. What are we going to do when the government and society starts coming down on us and it's not too fashionable to be a Christian? And the government doesn't allow us to worship in places like this? What are we going to do? Are we going to denounce our faith? You see, it's been interesting since I've been doing research for this book of Revelation. I've learned so much more about what the church went through in persecution under Roman law, under the Roman government empire. And one of the things that became quite evident in 81 AD when Domitian came to power, he believed he was a god. Everybody had to worship him. And he was number one god. And to prove that point, he had little statues in the major cities with little altars of him, you see. And everybody had to go to the altar and take a pinch of incense and burn it to the altar, and then they get a certificate. And they were good for the year, you see. And so some Christians thought, I've got to do that, but that's not really right. I don't think I should be doing that. That's worshiping an idol, and God doesn't want me to do it. But I can do it, and in good conscience I'll get away with it, and hopefully it'll be no big deal. But the faithful Christians said it's a big deal. But you see, if you don't take that pinch, or take a bit of incense and burn it unto that god, that idol for the emperor, off with your head. Those are decisions people are making every day in that society, in that world. It's not just in Rome, it's throughout the empire. Because it was the separating of the wheat from the chaff. You see? We need leaders like Nehemiah if we're going to stay faithful in times like that. Because they're coming, folks. I don't know if it'd be as bad, I don't know. I'm not a prophet or son of a prophet. Doesn't take much common sense to realize we're in trouble. And the consensus is among leaders that I know that travel more than I do is that it's going to get worse. What kind of faithful person are you going to be? Because you see, that's where the rock meets the hard place. Dealing with discouragement. All right, the halfway point. I love the halfway point. Satan loves the halfway point. Because at the halfway point, you see the walls are just halfway built now. You see this in Nehemiah chapter 4. The walls are halfway built, and they're thinking they're resting, they're tired, And there's these Arabians and so forth, and Assyrians hanging around there giving you trouble. And so you got to have your rifle, or not rifle, your sword. You got to have your sword in one hand, Always wondering when they're going to attack. So now you're ready for defensive now for any attack that they might bring upon you, and you're still building a wall, see? And you're not too worried about whether it's granite at this point, are you? Okay. So you're still building this wall up, see? And after a while, it's half built. This is a wall around the city. It's a few feet thick. And so it's time to kind of relax a little bit, take a break. Kind of like that halfway point in the story I was telling you. The mediocre end, let's just do a little bit of that. And so that's what's happening now to these Jews working for Nehemiah. We're going to take a break. And Nehemiah says, okay, you've had a 5-minute break, that's all you're going to get. Oh, but we're not motivated anymore. You see, it's not the thing. We've lost our strength now. You see, at the halfway point, we lose strength. We lose the vision. Because now we're just looking at what? The half-built wall. At one time, we had the vision in our minds of the full wall. And it excited us, motivated us, and Nehemiah knew how to excite us and tell us what our mission was. It's for God, for the glory of God and all that. We could see the wall, see the beautiful city. But now we're halfway, you see, and the wall doesn't look so good because there's still rubble around it. And now instead of having that vision of what the wall could be, now we have the vision of what the wall is. How many times do we do that in church? Instead of having the vision of what we can do for God and God's kingdom, we allow the spiritual rubble in our life to control us. Now we're focused on problems. Well, we tried that before, it didn't work, Or, I don't think we have the resources to do that. That doesn't make much sense to us, It's just too much launching out on faith to do this, that. So the vision just isn't there. And we look at our church and say, we don't have the money, we don't have the time, we don't have the talent, we don't have blah, 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 blah. And pretty soon we allow the half-built walls in our churches that are crumbling to some degree